All right, well, good morning and welcome to you all. Welcome to the UGA Fine Art Collections Gallery housed here in the Visual Resource Commons in the Fine Art Building. We are here to celebrate our Fall 2021 exhibition, Africa Found, Links and Lineage Through Art, and to hear from our featured artist, Shayna Sutton, over her process, research, and work. The exhibition presents many of the most recent donations to the UGA African Art Collection by Dr. Edmund Brody and his wife Judith Brody, including objects that have never been before exhibited, as well as pieces from our collection that are already present by Dr. Brody and Dr. Campbell. We also are showcasing a series of historic maps. These are recreations of maps that currently are in the UGA Library's special collections, donated by Dr. Jack Frankie, his collection of African maps, and these offer historical context and reflect the colonial presence of Europeans and are on display in support and partnership. We are supporting their current Fall 2021 exhibition, Searching for Africa, the map collection of Dr. Jack Frankie. So we also encourage you to visit that exhibition as well. We also have contemporary maps on display that are included to refresh our understanding of Africa with contextual links to broader geographies, languages, and profound social experiences such as the transatlantic slave trade. We're also proud to include works by contemporary African artists that are on loan by Dr. Leah McCurdy and Sally McCurdy, and extend special thanks to Dr. McCurdy for her co-curatorship for this exhibition and to Shayna for loaning her works to us for this partnership. And without further ado, I present to you Shayna Sutton.
I do just want to give a bit of So for a bit of context, for those who are not aware, these works relate to real individuals from the history in Africa and associated with Africa. So you'll be hearing Shayna describe information that relates to a particular woman who we know as Sarah Bartman or Sarje Bartman, and she was a Khoi woman born in South Africa in probably around 1789. Basically was a servant. She was born into servitude, and then eventually was enslaved. And the sort of more horrific part of her life was she was forcibly asked to sign a contract that enabled Dutch and British men to transport her first to England, then to France, to exhibit her in a cage, and to exhibit her as a specimen in some cases, alongside animals sometimes, and also as a sort of trained beast, quote unquote. So her life ended very quickly. She died at the age of 26, as far as we can tell, and was very much abused for a long period of time when she was both in England and Ireland and France. So that's a bit of context about her. Shayna will prioritize another part of her narrative. And also I briefly want to introduce you to Makeda, who is the other historic figure. So Makeda is the Ethiopian name of the quote-unquote Queen of Sheba of the biblical tradition. And so you might have, depending on your awareness, you might have some context of the Queen of Sheba, but within the Ethiopian tradition, Makeda is a strong matriarch. She was the principal and very specific leader of the Ethiopian tradition at that time. And she was curious about her neighbors and made a trip to the kingdom of King Solomon in Israel, but her story got changed, right? And she became sexualized, and that's sometimes what the popular imagination of the Queen of Sheba / Makeda really sees today. So With that context, we'll turn it over to Shayna. Shayna is a soon to be graduating, although no pressure, but an advanced undergraduate student here at UT Arlington. She's focused in intermedia sculpture, and she's working with a lot of different media today, and hopefully she'll talk a bit about that. And she is basically, she is a classmate of yours in terms of our students who are here in the audience. So, and Shayna will give a background on her work, but also we'll have some questions more about the current work that she's working on now. So, Shayna, please take it away.
Hi everybody, I am Shayna Sutton. I am an artist based in Arlington, but before I talk about my work, I want to talk to you about myself. So I am from a small town called Mineral Wells, probably don't know it. It's really country, small town. I was raised by a single mother. I eventually decided to go to community college, but while I was at college, I was working 2 jobs and I found it really hard, and I slowly fell out of love with art. So the best thing I thought to do, join the Navy. So I joined the Navy for 5 years, and after 5 years, I came back to Fort Worth, and I eventually started going back to school in Arlington. Once I was going to school in Arlington, I thought I wanted to be a dentist because when I was in the military, I was actually a dental assistant. And I thought, I did it for so long, why not make a career out of it? But I slowly just realized that's not my passion, that's not where my heart is. So eventually, I actually got academically dismissed for doing bad in biology. And then after that, I took a break, and then I eventually came back to art. I started doing art on the side, and I really just found that love again. So I worked my way back. I went to TCC for a while, and after I went to TCC, I transferred back to UTA. While I was going to school, it took me a minute to find my niche, because with art, they try to put you in a box. And I really love all of art. So I know for me, if I could tell anybody right now, while you're doing your undergraduate experience, make sure you really try to put yourself out there and you try new things, even if they make you uncomfortable, because you might find a new niche that really helps your creativity in the process of making. So while I'm also an intermediate student, I'm also trying to find ways to intersect every piece of medium that I do. So if you ever get a chance, you can follow me on Instagram or anything like that, and I can show you more of my work. So whenever I started my Mitochondrial Eve series, it also started with a conversation with my cousin Shannon. My cousin Shannon, we were talking about the name for Makeda actually. And it brought on these questions of really Black culture, history, identity, and I didn't really even think about it at the time, but now I do. As a Black woman, I really should educate myself on everything in the past so I can really know what my future is going to be like, especially me being a mother. I have a daughter, and I want her to be raised around culture that looks like her, because I look in the world today and there's not a lot of people who do what I do and present Black women in a good, positive light. And so in my work, I really try to make sure everything I do, I put my people in a positive light, because there's so many negative things in the world that present them as a stereotype. And so I'm trying to break that mold, especially for my daughter growing up. I want her to see herself in my art and in my work. So whenever we started this, I asked questions of what do I want my art to speak? How do I want it to speak to others? And it became an important thing that I still hold today with everything that I do. And everything I do, I don't make anything just because. I always try to bring it back to me. I can't make anything just because. So with this series, the cardboard series, it all started with that idea of working with materials that are close to home. Growing up, cardboard was something that I always had around me. It was just one of those things that really sparked my imagination. I think about all the times my mom, because we made the best of what we had. And I remember one year she made me this Halloween costume. It was absolutely horrible. But she made it out of cardboard and she painted it green, and I was this alien creature that I thought was the coolest thing ever. And I just think about how most of the Black women in my life, they make literally nothing into something. It's just been one of those things. That's what I was raised by, these strong Black women who really just influence everything that I do in life. And I want to be able to influence my child in the same way. So whenever I thought about cardboard, I like to push it. Everybody thinks cardboard, you know, this everyday material that has all these functions of shipping and all this other stuff, but they don't see past that of what it could be. I think whenever I think of cardboard, it's just this limitless material that I can mold and create the human form or anything else that I want to create, and it has all these different textures, and I'm able to present it in a way that I feel is just something beautiful, at least to me. So whenever I made Makeda, she was the one out of the two figures, she was the longest one that took me to make because of COVID and just life. I'm a mother, I have other things going on in life. So she was the longest one to take, but in the process of making her, I'm not gonna lie, I want y'all to know, failure is not something to really look negatively upon. I think about all the times I failed in the first process of making her, and it got me to this point. I feel like don't rely on sketches, because your sketch sometimes will never ever be the final result. It evolves so much over the time. And even whenever I thought I was finished with her and I put her to the side, it almost took me about a year to finish her. When I put her to the side, it still wasn't finished to me. And so then I incorporated these found objects. And when I incorporated these found objects, I thought about how found objects in a way keep us connected. They have these facets of human emotions and memories inside of them. And when you put these two pieces together, it became complete to me. So it's something that I know later down the road I want to keep doing with found objects, especially this one as well. So Makeda was the first one, and she was just on a whim. I don't know, I just had a sketch in my idea and I just went for it. I failed a couple times with her as well. She started off as one thing, and then eventually I had things with her, I took it off, I didn't like it. I set her aside, walked away, came back, and eventually she turned into exactly what I feel is the best way I could present her. So both of my sculptures I'm really proud of. The process of it, I literally went to, I don't even know, maybe about 5 different stores, maybe Dollar General, grocery stores, anything. And I used cardboard that they just had thrown to the side. None of this stuff is actually new, it's recycled. I think about how we spend so much time thinking something has to be new, but whenever you can find so much love and energy into these materials that people have discarded, because sometimes they need a second chance at life. Just like her story, I felt like it needed a second chance at life. She is more than the body they had depicted her to be, because beauty is one of those things I feel like it's a European standard. Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. And so that's how I presented her. Makeda as well. She was more than this sexual object that they had painted her out to be. And even in history, I see some of the photos, they have whitewashed her. And I wanted to bring her back to her roots of Africa and who she was as a queen. So that's where I'm at. I'm trying to educate myself, I'm trying to educate my daughter, and I'm trying to educate everybody else in the process. So that's my series.
Thank you. So we have a few prepared questions that will get at some more context,
Okay.
And also at some more of your recent work, right, that you're doing right now. So other than these two women's stories, what about the history and or art of Africa sticks out to you the most as an artist?
I would have to say, I make African American studies. I have a studies minor as well, and I've taken a class where they've been able to compare African American culture and African culture, and they both have very big similarities, whether it be the African colors that they use in their clothing and African American patchwork quilting, or it be dance. Dance is still one of those universal things that I still find is in African and African American culture. So there's still those traditions that I find still go together with African culture, to answer your question. So that's what I find most interesting.
Great. And to get more at, say, some of the contemporary context, what contemporary artists do you draw inspiration from, and what specifically about their work speaks to you?
Okay. Specifically right now in this moment where I'm at, Kara Walker, Vanessa German, Bisa Butler, and Carrie Mae Weems, just to name those few Black female artists that I feel right now influence my work right now. I like the way they're able to storytell. Storytelling is a huge thing to me in my art. I feel it's not done lately, at least in the art that I see right now. It's not done properly, and I feel like they do it in a way that is reinvented, whether it is like Bisa Butler, she does quilting, and the quilt work is just absolutely gorgeous. She's able to bring these colors and bring the person actually to life. Or Vanessa German, how she uses recycled objects and she's able to give them a second chance in life or make them into these power figures. So those are a couple of people right now that really influence my work as an artist.
And it would behoove y'all to go and check out their Instagrams and various other examples of their work so that you can really see how those visual qualities are relevant, and also really the how evocative a lot of their work is too. So what new avenues are you taking in your most recent work? And again, you can go check out Shayna's Instagram. And we actually, you've got some work that's in our Studio Art Center right now.
Yes.
In process. So what concepts, materials, and techniques are you exploring now? And how does your most recent work relate or differ from this series?
The one I'm currently working on, I'm actually working with Leah and Ms. Mitchell, and I'm actually studying some of the African artifacts that they have in the collection, and I'm actually trying to bring my own culture into it and break my own pieces that I am inspired by. And so right now I'm currently working with secondhand fibers. Same thing with, I'm starting to realize I like materials that have already been used. I like the fact that, the idea that somebody wore these materials or fabric and I'm able to put them into a piece. So right now I'm working with that, and I'm really excited to show you these next couple of pieces coming up. I'm also working with painting. I'm also doing something with that, and I'm also bringing my culture into it. I don't want to give you too much. It's one of those things, in the back burner. I kind of want to wait so I can surprise everybody with it. But just know I'm still keeping what I learned from working with this material and trying to incorporate it in new ways, whether that is painting, sculpture, photography, whatever, really piques my interest at the time. I don't know. I'm like one of those persons, you never know what you're going to get, but you're really surprised whenever you do see it. So, to answer your question.
And also, maybe what you've chosen as your ensemble today is a little
like I gotta.
surprise or related to the work that you're doing now. So, does anyone in the group here today have any questions or comments that they'd like to offer?
So, two questions.
Yes, ma'am.
You said something about that you called this the mitochondrial, did you say Eve?
Yes, the Mitochondrial Eve. I'm glad you brought that question up. Whenever I first thought about the Mitochondrial Eve, I thought about how we all share connections of lineage in Africa. And Africa is the maternal ancestors of all living humans. And as the descendant of these women, I'm hoping to preserve the untold or untold stories that I feel need to be heard. And that's why I call it the Mitochondrial Eve.
I love that. And then, now, are both these figures representative of Makeda or Makeda?
This is Makeda over here, and this is Sarah Bartman over here.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
And could you talk a little bit maybe more about how her figure, her actual body was represented?
So in real life, she's actually really short. I think she was about 5'4", roughly around there. And her body was really depicted for her asset. I mean, she was depicted for her butt because it was different from what the European standards. I just find it funny also how her butt was depicted, but yet they tried to emulate it in ways, whether it was through the corset and it had like the big thing in the back, or how today in society, this is something that's so sought after. This body is shamed for through Black women, but other people seek this body out.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much. We'll continue to have the space open if you want to look more carefully at some of the didactic materials or the maps. We'll also be going over to special collections next week for my students to see many of these works in person as well. So let's thank Shayna very much. And also, we might have some time for some individual questions if you'd like to